Hey everybody, Bryce Koon here. It's another great episode of The Crowded Booth. Will Tennessee win the SEC East? They looked really, really good against Florida, and they are finally back in the top 10. Is Tennessee back? We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Ralph Leary is in the building. He's going to be joining the show here right now. Ralph, how you doing, sir, as we get ready to talk about the Vols?
Man, it's good to be back. I feel like I haven't been here like in 2 weeks. I think our last show was about Auburn, so I had a lot of fun with that one, especially.
Are you sad about it?
No.
You're not sad about it?
What, sad not being about not being here often, or
Not being here.
Oh yeah, all the time, dude. I always text you when you want to record. You're like, I'm too busy for you. Mr. Big Shot. He's on TV shows now. He is on the news. He's getting quoted by Barstool and 247 Sports main page. Man, he's getting too big for me, y'all. And he's gonna leave us behind. And he's gonna move on to somewhere else and become sitting there next to Kirk Herbstreit in the booth calling games against Ohio State, Michigan this year. I'm just saying.
If that happens this year, then some real stuff went down for sure. But let's talk about this. Let's give a hand clap because we just hit 1,000 subscribers. The people have spoken. And I'll tell you one thing: we had the most viewed video in the history of our channel last week when I just went after the Georgia Tech regime. And
I wish you would have let me be on that part of that podcast.
I know,
but I was on Paramount's part too.
Yes. Tomorrow, Tuesday, you got a nice episode coming for Georgia Tech fans. As we talk about, look, it's happened, it's gone. But today, we're talking a little bit about Ralph, the Tennessee Volunteers. But before we get that, we have a week-long sponsorship that we're going to run this week. You don't know about it, but I do. And look, this Friday, September the 30th, did you know that Atlanta Braves Hall of Famer, and arguably he needs to be a Hall of Famer, is coming to Columbus this Friday, September 30th? That's right, the National League's youngest ever two-time most valuable player, Dale Murphy, will be speaking at the St. Luke Church Ministry Center for the All-Star Leadership Luncheon, benefiting the St. Luke Military Ministry and the Ranger Outreach Center. Now listen, tickets are just $25, and they can be purchased online at give.gallantfew.org/allstar. And look, listen, you got to come see Dale Murphy at St. Luke this Friday. You get great lunch and all that for $25. Doors open at 11:30. The buffet line begins at 12, followed by a great presentation on team culture and leadership presented by Dale Murphy. Tickets are limited. This is the last week. It happens this Friday. Ralph, you might be joining me on Friday if you don't work. Just wanted to let you know.
I'll probably be working, let you know that right now.
I'll say this because not only do I record here, but St. Luke does they bring some really nice people in to speak. You and I got to see Mark Rick earlier this year. It was
Saw
a great.
Gus Malzahn a few years ago.
Gus Malzahn, Nick Saban has spoken as well.
Hugh Freeze. I think.
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting, actually.
Freeze. Before it was it before the Liberty job or after the Liberty job?
It might. I don't remember. It might.
I think it was like when he got hired at Liberty.
It might have been. But you know what's even more interesting, Ralph? They haven't had Josh Heupel on. And Josh Heupel has the Vols rolling. Ralph, look, we can talk a little bit about the game, but really what I want to talk about is can Tennessee win the SEC East? Let's go back to this game, 38-33 win. Look, they were up 38-21. Ralph, really and truly were in control of this football game. It kind of felt like they only stopped themselves. Like Florida never really stopped them. Hendon Hooker, man, 22 of 28, 349, 2 touchdowns through the air. He added another 112 yards on the ground with a touchdown on the ground. The H word has been used, and it's not because it's double H's Hendon Hooker, but the Hendon Hooker for Heisman signs were well out on College Game Day. I think Barstool had their show as well in Knoxville. So look, Florida is what Florida is, and I think Billy Napier's going to do a great job. You and I have pointed to that. They just got to get to this point. Year 2 under Josh Heupel, this offense has come alive. Hendon Hooker coming back. Ralph, this is a special year. What have you taken away so far from Tennessee? We'll get into what they potentially could do, but, through the first 4 games, they're back in the top 10, man, number 8 in the AP poll.
Yeah, man, Heupel has done terrific things at Tennessee starting last year, obviously, with, shocking everybody, being a lot better team than we thought they would be after the dumpster fire of a all-season they had after 2020 and how everything was going for them. They didn't know who they were going to hire. People were skeptical of Josh Heupel hiring because the AD was from UCF. He brought over as the head coach from there, and people were kind of like, "Well, he's just bringing over someone he knows." Well, turns out it ended up being a great hire. Tennessee fans love him. He's done nothing but great things there. Hendon Hooker has been outstanding this season. He looked terrific against Florida. If you hadn't seen Hendon Hooker play like really yet against a good team, go watch the Florida game again. He looks like that every week, honestly.
Yeah.
They started last year with Joe Milton at quarterback. Joe Milton
quickly made the switch.
Well, Joe Milton's arm was too good for him. He was overthrowing everybody by 20 yards.
He's got a bazooka attached to his right shoulder.
And also, if you watch him, he played a few weeks ago or last week against Akron. He came in toward the end of the game, made one deep ball throw, and threw it on the money. That's one season of working with Heupel and his coaching staff. Got him to be able to control an arm. So Joe Milton could be the quarterback next year, and possibly, if you think about it, Tennessee might have 2 Heisman quarterbacks in the next future.
No, Ralph. Look, I think you hit the nail on the head with where this team has been. I mean, look, Hooker is phenomenal. Ralph, a stat that stood out to me: 6 of 9 on third downs, while Florida was 7 of 15. So what does that tell me? You only had to convert 9 for third downs the whole game. It means your offense is moving the ball in chunk plays. You're not having that many opportunities. You're getting positive yardage on first and second down. Love seeing that. The balance, too. 349 through the air, 227 on the ground. Penalties, 6 for 50. You did have 2 fumbles. This is not a team. I said this when I talked to the Georgia Tech kind of Ole Miss preview a week or 2 ago. They're not concerned about time of possession because they go so fast. And I just think, man, this is a team that is trending in the right direction as they really get to this gauntlet that comes up in the next 3 games. Ralph, they have a bye week. Then on October the 8th, they travel to Baton Rouge, and that was the reason I sent that to you on Twitter earlier today.
Now
they go to Baton Rouge. They host number 2 Alabama. That's not fun. They host UT Martin, but then they host Kentucky, and they go to Athens. Ralph, it's 4 out of the next 5 games really decides what kind of season this team's going to have, and it begs the question, hypothetically, can Tennessee win the SEC East? Do they have the firepower to do it? And I think it comes down to the fact of, look, if you beat LSU, you lose to Alabama, that's fine. If you beat Kentucky, and I think they can beat Kentucky, first off, they're playing it at home in Neyland. And listen, we know plenty of Tennessee fans. You got a couple buddies that are Tennessee fans. That fan base, when they are good, is unbelievable. Like, even when they're not good, Neyland's packed out. Neyland's crazy when they're good. So if they beat Kentucky, they walk into Georgia in Athens on November the 5th, Ralph, with a chance. One, that could be a top 15 matchup still. They walk into Athens, and if you win, you probably win the SEC East because you're playing South Carolina and Vanderbilt after that. And you would hold the tiebreaker over Georgia if Georgia's undefeated in SEC play. So, am I crazy? Are we crazy for even posing the question, Ralph? Could they win the SEC East?
No, because we saw it this past weekend. I mean, Georgia is beatable. They struggled at home against Kent State. Not to knock down what Kent State did. Kent State played a great game.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia struggled themselves. I think they're looking forward to next week, the first SEC matchups next week, or second SEC matchups next week against Missouri. Same thing happened to Arkansas. It was what we saw happen, though. Arkansas looked ahead against Eastern Illinois, I think, as they played last week.
No. Central Arkansas, no. I'm going to look it up. You keep going.
Yeah, either way, and then they go down to Arlington, play A&M in the neutral site game, and they get beat. Now, I'm not saying Missouri is going to beat Georgia, not at all, because Missouri and Auburn played the worst game in the SEC history on Saturday.
Apologies, Ralph. Missouri State, who's the number 5 FCS team in the country, and led by their good friend Bobby Petrino.
Exactly, but still, Arkansas is a way better team.
Yeah.
So, Georgia did the same thing, I feel like, against Kent State. They overlooked them. Stetson didn't have a horrible game, but he didn't play his best game he's played all year. Brock Bowers still looks incredible. And here's the problem with Georgia right now, and I'm going to cut it in it here, is too much talent right now, and they're trying to get everyone the ball. Tennessee has their 5 guys who get the ball and score and make plays.
Yeah.
Tennessee's right now, they have their offense figured out. Their defense is getting better week by week. I feel like mobile quarterbacks hurt them because they bring a lot of blitzes, and then Anthony Richardson has a great arm. He can move around the pocket very well. He's fast.
Yeah.
And Georgia, I mean, no offense to Stetson Bennett. Stetson's really good. He's really good this year. He honestly has proven a lot to a lot of people, all the haters last year. Tennessee will more than likely lose to Alabama, and that Georgia matchup is a big question mark because right now, Georgia's beaten Oregon, who is a decent team, but hasn't really, and Georgia hasn't been challenged since then.
Yeah.
So, and Georgia won't be challenged until who? Tennessee, Kentucky,
Florida, maybe.
Maybe not.
In Jacksonville, maybe not. Yeah, I don't, that's what I'm saying is I don't think we talk realistically here. I don't think Georgia's going to be challenged until they play Tennessee.
Yeah,
and I don't think their defense. I don't think Tennessee's defense is going to be able to shut Georgia's offense down. Mm-hmm. It's going to be Tennessee's offense, how well they play against Georgia's defense. And I want to real quick because you pointed this out. Tennessee. So I'm looking right now. They have Jalen Wright, running back, who has 55 carries, 256 yards. Jabari Small, 44 carries, 184 yards. Hooker has 35 official rushing attempts, 175 yards. Probably more if you discount the sacks.
Yeah.
Receiving, Jalen Hyatt, very, very talented kid. Cedric Tillman, another one I really like.
To me,
Brew McCoy.
Cedric Tillman, to you and me at the beginning of the year, was the best returning SEC receiver.
Yeah. And
he's the second most in catches right now on that team.
Yeah. Tillman has 17, Hyatt with leading the team, like you said, 23, and McCoy with 13. So Tennessee knows what they do. They know what they do very well, and they're comfortable in that.
Right.
So I don't think it's far-fetched that this team could upset Georgia. I mean, look, Georgia is very talented. Very, very talented. We know that. But if there's a team that's going to challenge Georgia going forward, it's going to be Tennessee. And the Vols, look, they got everything going for them, and they had that game with a lot of confidence.
Happened in 2016?
The Hail Mary?
When Butch Jones and Josh Dobbs challenged Jacob Eason in Athens and was one of the craziest fourth quarters in history.
If it turns into a game like that, that's what Tennessee wants to play. Like, I think Tennessee is going to want Georgia to play. And look, they still got to win other games in their schedule. Like, they got to go down to LSU, who we still don't really know yet. Like, are they good? That's still a tough place to play. So, like, how do they respond to that environment? But I think what you just said is really important because this Tennessee team has the offensive firepower to challenge Georgia. Like, I think we could say that comfortably.
I want to go back to last year for Tennessee and just a big step that they've taken this year. They were 5-3 entering the Kentucky game last year. Kentucky was 6-2, I think. I don't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. I could be wrong about those. Tennessee entered that game in a hostile environment. Kentucky was favored that game. I'm pretty sure. Tennessee was favored that game. Sorry. Kentucky
I got
had
you
the
right
ball
here.
for
6-3 Kentucky, 5-4 Tennessee.
Kentucky had the ball for 46 minutes of that game. A lot of carries for short yardages, a lot of short passes. Tennessee had the ball for 13 minutes and scored 45 points.
Gotta love it.
Georgia is the same thing to me right now, is that they can hold the ball for a long time and make their defense not work as hard. Or they can take it, 75 yards downfield easily.
They could just hand it to Brock Bowers on a
And Brock Bowers
tight,
is not he is not fair game. Every team should get at least one Brock Bowers, and just we should duplicate it every year because it's not fair. Because he's I think I heard that he played running back in high school. I'm like, that couldn't be fair.
I mean, I can tell.
Yeah, he looks like a running back, but plays like a receiver and has the height and the size of a tight end. So
let's wrap it up right here, though. But Tennessee, I really do believe they have the challenge and the opportunity to win the SEC East. I think they're going to walk into that game, and that might be a de facto SEC East title game. Because Georgia wouldn't necessarily be eliminated if they lost that game. They would have to hope that Tennessee lost to South Carolina or Vanderbilt, and I just don't see that happening. With the way that this team's playing, and even you hear some of the reports, they just feel different. And I think you could tell that in the Florida game, where they didn't let the late comeback do them in. They really did a good job of that. But look, hey, we appreciate it. We also appreciate 1,000 subscribers. Look, to make sure to go ahead, we're going to throw it up one more time. Check out those people over here in Columbus, Georgia, if you have the chance. Dale Murphy coming. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to get that information. Sign up today, Friday, September 30th at 12 p.m. Ralph, we appreciate it as always, my man. Show the people what you're working with. If you're listening in audio form on the radio, Ralph is sporting a Tennessee pullover. Charcoal gray, smoke gray, maybe. We'll go with that.
I bought it for the Georgia-Tennessee game last year I was supposed to go to, and I obviously could not attend because of work. So now I'm stuck with it, and I still like wearing it because it is comfy.
If you want Ralph to be on the show more, hit the subscribe button and let us know how much you love the show so he could quit his job at UPS. We appreciate it as always, everyone. Thanks so much. We will talk with you once again.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.